The glass walls hummed with a low electric vibration, and Jack Rivers could hear the muffled roar of the crowd beyond them. Thousands of alien voices, guttural, shrill, some mechanical, all unified in their anticipation of his death. The galactic death arena sprawled before him like a monstrous cathedral of violence, towering spires of metal, weaponized drones hovering like vultures, and at its center, the blood-stained sands where champions killed or were killed for the entertainment of empires. Jack stood alone inside the holding cell, his reflection faint against the glass, a ghost of a man with bruised cheekbones, a split lip, and eyes darkened by exhaustion and quiet defiance. The remnants of his uniform hung loose on his frame, a battered jumpsuit marked with the insignia of Earth, the same insignia now laughed at across the galaxy. High above, a booming alien voice reverberated through the arena, its translation dripping with contempt. Humanity's fate rests on the failure of this final, unworthy contestant. The crowd erupted, a tidal wave of jeers and mockery in 100 languages. Jack's jaw tightened. He thought of the so-called leaders back on Earth, the politicians, the diplomats, the generals, the ones who had traded him like scrap metal in a desperate attempt to buy peace after humanity's failed rebellion against the consortium. They hadn't chosen a warrior. They hadn't chosen a champion. They'd chosen a scapegoat, a broken man, a man they thought wouldn't last a single round. As the guards entered, scaled and armored, dragging him toward the arena gates, Jack's pulse steadied, his fists clenched. The countdown began, numbers flashing crimson across the walls. The crowd's roar blurred into background noise. His heartbeat was the only sound now. They thought sending a broken man would guarantee humanity's extinction. They forgot what happens when you corner a human with nothing left to lose. The cell doors hissed open with a sharp hydraulic whine, and the stench of blood, oil, and ozone drifted in like a warning. The two alien guards flanking him were massive, their scaled hides glinting under the stadium lights, eyes black and unblinking. They didn't speak as they grabbed his arms, their clawed fingers biting into his skin through the thin fabric of his uniform. It didn't matter. Words wouldn't change where he was headed. The corridor they dragged him down was narrow, metallic, humming with power, the walls covered in deep scars, not from age, but from panic, desperation, from others like him who had walked this last path before meeting their end. Faint stains of dried blood still marked the floor, some human, some unrecognizable. This is how it ends, Jack thought bitterly. Not on the battlefield where he'd spent most of his life, not in a quiet cell back on Earth, but as a spectacle for an empire that saw his species as little more than unruly pets needing to be broken. But even now, as they shoved him forward, even with the pain simmering beneath his skin and the weight of betrayal pressing on his chest, there was a stubborn ember burning inside him, old, dim, but not extinguished. He remembered the tribunal, the polished courtroom on Earth, the smug faces of the planetary governors, the hollow speeches about unity and reconciliation. The lie they fed the public, that Jack Rivers, decorated war hero, had gone rogue, that his actions during the Mars uprising had jeopardized peace. What they didn't say, what they covered up, was that Earth had never stood a chance, that their rebellion was doomed before it began. And Jack? He was never meant to be a hero, just a convenient name to pin it all on when the smoke cleared. The corridor opened into the loading bay behind the arena gates. The sound of the crowd was deafening now, a living wave of noise and hunger for blood. Screens floated above, displaying his name in a dozen languages, each one accompanied by statistics, species, odds of survival, a pitiful 2%, and the bounty offered for his death. His eyes found the viewing platform high above the arena. A row of dignitaries sat in luxury, untouched by the grit and gore below. Among them, he recognized Earth's ambassador to the consortium, Senator Kellen, lounging comfortably beside an insectoid warlord, smirking like the outcome was already written. They really believe I'm just here to die, Jack thought, lips curling into a faint, grim smile. A mechanical voice counted down overhead. Combatant 47B, prepare for deployment. The guards shoved him to the gate. The thick metal doors loomed ahead, inscribed with the arena's ancient symbol, a coiled serpent devouring its own tail. As the countdown hit 10, the doors began to rise. Bright, blinding light poured in, followed by the roar of the crowd reaching its peak. Jack straightened his spine, squared his shoulders, and stepped forward. He wasn't a champion. He wasn't even supposed to be alive. But they had made one critical mistake. They'd given him a stage. They'd given him an audience. And they'd forgotten what happens when you corner a human with nothing left to lose. 3 months earlier, Earth was a planet holding its breath, battered, humiliated, and under the tightening noose of alien control. The failed rebellion on the Martian colonies had been humanity's last desperate gasp for freedom, and when it collapsed, so did any illusion of Earth's independence. In the rubble of that failure stood Jack Rivers, once a decorated war hero, now a scapegoat. His face, once celebrated on news feeds and recruitment posters, had been plastered across broadcasts for weeks. Traitor, butcher, war criminal. His commanding officers had needed someone to blame for the disaster, and Jack's reputation made him the perfect fall guy. He'd led the strike teams on Mars. He'd made the calls in the field. What the media never reported was how those orders were sabotaged from above. His ribs ached with every breath, his lip was split, and his wrists bore the raw marks of restraints, but his eyes, cold, calculating, never wavered. The guards escorting him were part of the consortium's Peace Corps, if you could call them that. Their faces hidden behind reflective visors, their alien physiology only hinted at beneath layers of black armor. They never spoke to him, never acknowledged him as anything more than cargo. The docking clamps hissed as the ship made contact. A mechanical voice announced, "Combatant 47B, prepare for arena intake." Combatant, not soldier, not human, just a number. Jack's jaw tightened. The airlock opened to a blinding corridor of white light and gunmetal walls. He stepped out, escorted by 4 heavily armed guards, into the belly of the arena, a labyrinth of holding cells, equipment bays, and sterilized walkways humming with hidden cameras and security drones. As they walked, Jack caught glimpses of others, hulking alien gladiators covered in scales, fur, or metal plating. Some were cybernetically enhanced, others entirely biological, but no less lethal. They barely spared him a glance, their focus on sharpening weapons, psyching themselves up, or quietly awaiting their turn to die. Jack knew the odds. A human had never lasted more than 1 round in the arena. Most didn't even make it through the first minute. Finally, they reached a heavily guarded checkpoint. Beyond it, a grand observation deck stretched high above the arena floor. Walls of reinforced glass, luxury seating, and diplomatic banners representing the ruling species of the consortium, the elites, the ones who'd bought Earth's submission. Among them, Jack spotted Senator Kellen, Earth's senior ambassador to the consortium, dressed in an immaculate navy blue suit, the Earth insignia pinned to his chest, like a cruel joke. He stood beside a towering insectoid dignitary with iridescent armor and multifaceted eyes that gleamed with amusement. They were laughing. The meaning settled in like a slow, bitter poison. They didn't send him here to fight. They sent him here to lose, publicly, humiliatingly. His death, broadcast across the galaxy, was part of Earth's price for survival. Show the galaxy humans are weak, break their last soldier. The consortium wins not just with weapons, but with spectacle. Jack's fists curled, his breathing slowed, his mind sharpened. They want a show, he thought. Fine, I'll give them one they'll never forget. The guards stripped him of his cuffs and handed him a basic combat harness. No weapons, no armor enhancements, nothing but light padding and reinforced boots. It was meant to look fair. It wasn't. Combatant 47B, enter the arena. The massive gates groaned open, revealing the sand-covered battlefield. Across the arena, a second gate opened. The crowd roared as his opponent emerged. A towering reptilian beast, nearly 8 feet tall, its scales glistening like obsidian armor under the stadium lights. Yellow eyes narrowed with predatory delight. A thick tail whipped behind it. Clawed hands flexed and jagged teeth bared in a sadistic grin. The announcer's voice boomed through the arena in multiple languages. Representing the Vyrix Dominion, reigning undefeated, the Bone Breaker. The alien roared, pounding its chest, the stadium chanting its name. Jack exhaled slowly. His ribs throbbed. His muscles screamed, but his mind was calm. Fights aren't won by size, he reminded himself. They're won by desperation. A siren blared. The fight began. The Bonebreaker charged, fast for its size, claws swiping through the air like scythes. Jack ducked under the first blow, rolling to the side, sand kicking up around him. His ribs flared with pain, but adrenaline dulled the edge. The crowd jeered. They wanted blood. The reptilian lunged again. Jack sidestepped, grabbed a handful of sand and flung it into its eyes. The creature hissed, momentarily blinded, its tail lashing wildly. Jack dove in, driving his elbow into the alien's throat, following with a sharp knee to its midsection. His blows barely made the creature flinch, but the distraction was enough. He spotted the weak spot, a narrow gap between armored scales along its side. The Bonebreaker recovered, snarling, and caught him with a vicious backhand. Jack's body hit the sand hard, ribs splintering with a sickening crack. The world blurred. The taste of blood filled his mouth. Get up. Every instinct screamed to stay down, to surrender to the inevitable. Get up. The faces of Earth's politicians flashed through his mind, smug, satisfied, convinced of his failure. Emily's face, not angry, but disappointed, hollow-eyed, believing the lies. Get up! Gritting his teeth, Jack forced himself to his feet. His breath rattled in his chest. His vision pulsed red. The Bonebreaker came again, confident now, jaws wide in anticipation. Jack stumbled forward, weaving at the last second, catching the alien's arm, twisting with every ounce of human ingenuity and desperation, and snapped its elbow backward with a sickening pop. The creature howled. The crowd gasped. Jack didn't stop. He drove his knee into its throat, kicked the side of its knee, exploiting anatomy, angles, and pain thresholds drilled into him from years of combat training. Not brute strength, human strategy. The Bonebreaker, off balance, stumbled. Jack lunged, grabbing a fallen shard of bone, probably a leftover from a previous match, and rammed it upward, piercing the creature's vulnerable side, right between the ribs. The alien's yellow eyes widened in shock as
Commander Vex 9 tapped his 4 digits against the polished surface of the observation deck console, his 3 pairs of yellow eyes blinking in sequence as he studied the bizarre creature in the testing chamber below. The human always, the humans, causing problems. Run the statistics by me again, Vex 9 said, irritation clear in his voice. Okay, please, Technician Lore. Try to make sense this time. Technician Lore, a slender Arthaxian with pale, blue, perpetually moist skin, nervously adjusted her atmosphere. Regulator. Yes, Commander. The human recruit, Jackson West, has completed all preliminary tests with unprecedented results. Unprecedented, Vex 9 repeated, each syllable dripping with distaste. That word seems to follow these humans wherever they go. Senior biologist Draz, the oldest of the three aliens, observing the human, gave a whistling laugh through his nasal cavities. You must admit, Commander, they are fascinating specimens, especially this one. Below, unaware of their conversation, the human male paced the circular chamber. Tall by human standards, though shorter than the average Galactic Alliance species. He had a muscular build, suggesting regular physical conditioning. His medium brown skin contrasted with short, dark curls on his head. Every few seconds, he bounced slightly on his toes, as if testing the gravity. Fascinating is not the word I would use, Vex 9 muttered. Disruptive, unpredictable, potentially dangerous. The Alliance Council voted unanimously to allow human integration. Politicians, Technician Lore reminded him gently. Vex 9 spat. They see only potential resources, not potential threats. Speaking of potential, Draz interjected. Shall we begin the gravity tests? The human appears ready. X9 flicked a hand. Dismissively. Proceed. Standard protocol. Begin at one point to Earth's gravity and increase incrementally. Technician Lore leaned toward the communication panel. Recruit West. We will now begin gravity testing, starting at 1.2 Earth standard and increasing gradually. Please inform us immediately if you experience discomfort. The human looked up toward the observation window and gave a thumbs up. His voice, with that strange, flat resonance typical of humans, came through the speakers. Ready when you are, Lore. Adjusted the controls, and the gravity field in the chamber increased. Monitoring equipment showed a spike in the human's heart rate and blood pressure, followed by a rapid return to near baseline levels. 1.2 Earth gravity achieved, Lore announced. Subject appears to be adjusting normally. Vex 9 grunted. Hardly impressive. Most species can handle up to 1.3 without significant strain. Yes, Commander, Lore agreed. But humans evolved on a planet with relatively light gravity compared to most Alliance homeworlds. Even Arthaxians, like myself, come from a world with 1 point for Earth gravity. Move to 1.5, Vex 9 ordered. Below, the human continued moving, now performing stretching exercises. His movements grew slightly more deliberate as the gravity increased, but he showed no distress. 1.5 achieved, Lore reported. Subject's vital signs remain within acceptable parameters. Interesting, Draz murmured, eyes fixed on the biological readings. His muscle fiber response is unusual. He's adapting at the cellular level more quickly than our models predicted. Continue, Vex 9 said, leaning forward slightly, despite himself, as they increased the gravity to 1.7, then 1.8 Earth standard. The human's movements became more labored. Sweat beaded on his forehead and arms, but his expression remained determined. He should be struggling significantly at this point, Draz noted, surprised. Most species without specific gravitational adaptations would be experiencing severe discomfort. Humans, Vex 9 said, as if the word explained everything. Their homeworld's gravity might be light, but they evolved with unusually dense musculature and robust skeletal structures. Warlike tendencies, okay? The human is requesting to communicate, Lore interrupted. Put him through, Vex 9 said. That's, hey. Up there, the human called, his voice strained but cheerful. Wondering, what's the current setting? 1.8 Earth standard gravity, Lore replied. The human grinned. An expression that unnerved Vex 9 with its display of teeth. That all? Come on, I was hoping for a challenge today. Vex 9's eye ridges rose. Is he mocking us? I believe he's employing humor, Draz suggested. Humans often use it during stress situations. Increase 2 to Earth standard, Vex 9 ordered, a hint of challenge in his voice as the gravity intensified. The human's posture changed noticeably, knees bent slightly, back straightened, breathing more measured. He was clearly feeling the strain, but his face showed determination. To Earth's standard gravity achieved, Lore announced. Subject's heart rate elevated, blood pressure increased, but still within safe parameters. I believe this test has served its purpose, Draz said quietly. We've established the human can function in increased gravity environments, suitable for assignments on higher gravity worlds. No, Vex 9 replied, his voice hardening. I want to see his limits. Humans have been nothing but trouble since they joined the Alliance, always pushing boundaries, ignoring protocols. Commander, Laura protested. The testing protocols. I am well aware of the protocols, Vex 9 snapped. This is not merely about testing. This is about understanding a potential threat. Below, the human stopped moving, standing in the center of the chamber, legs spread, arms crossed over his chest. He looked up at the observation window. Hey, is there some kind of problem up there? We still doing this, or what? Vex 9 pressed the communication button. Crew West, we're discussing the appropriate continuation of your test. K, the humans. Lips quirked in a smirk. Well, why are you discussing? How about cranking up the gravity a bit more? This is starting to feel like a light workout. Vex 9 felt a surge of irritation. You are currently experiencing twice the gravity of your home world, human. Perhaps you don't understand the significance of that. The human shrugged, insolent under double gravity. I understand. I'm standing here talking while you guys are having a committee meeting about whether I can handle more. I can, so make it 3. 3. Laura gasped. Commander, no human has ever been tested at 3 times Earth gravity. The medical implications, precisely. What we need to understand, Vex 9 finished, fixed his gaze on the human below. Very well, Recruit West. You wish to test your limits? So do I. Commander Draz warned, I must formally register my objection. This goes beyond standard testing parameters. Noted, Vex 9 said dismissively. Technician Lore increased gravity to 2.5 Earth standard. Lore hesitated, then reluctantly adjusted the controls. The effect on the human was immediate and dramatic. His body sank lower, posture adjusting to the crushing increase. For a moment, he struggled, his face contorting, vital signs spiking. Heart rate approaching dangerous levels, Draz reported, concern evident. But then, remarkably, the human closed his eyes, took several deep breaths, and slowly straightened his posture. When he opened his eyes, they held a fierce intensity that unsettled even Vex 9. The subject is stabilizing, Laura said, disbelief in her voice. How is this possible? Their species evolved as persistence hunters, Draz muttered. Extraordinary. Cardiovascular recovery capabilities. The human's strained but coherent voice came through. That's more like it. But I said 3. Don't hold back on me now, Commander, Lord pleaded. This is becoming dangerous. The human skeletal structure could collapse under such pressure. Vex 9 waved away her concern. He requested it. Quetting, but increased gradually, 2.7 first. Quetting. As the gravity increased again, the human's legs trembled. He lowered himself to one knee, placing a hand on the floor for support. His breathing grew labored, each breath requiring significant effort. Bone density scan shows stress microfractures beginning to form, Draz reported, voice tight with concern. Commander, we must stop this now. But before Vex 9 could respond, the human laughed a strange, gasping sound. Is this all you've got? He called, each word an effort. My drill sergeant back on Earth would be disappointed. Fascinating, Draz whispered. Even under extreme physical stress, he maintained psychological resistance. Crease to 3 Earth gravity, Vex 9 ordered. Let's give him exactly what he asked for. Both Lore and Draz protested, but Vex 9 insisted. Do it, but be prepared to terminate immediately if his vital signs approach critical levels. Laura, hands trembling, made the final adjustment. The human collapsed to his hands and knees, his body shaking under the crushing pressure. His breathing became shallow. Rapid gasps and monitors showed his heart racing dangerously. He's approaching system failure, Draz warned. His oxygen saturation dropping, blood pressure critically high. Terminate the test, Laura urged. Vex 9 held up a hand, eyes fixed on the human. Wait. Jackson West pressed his forehead to the floor, his body crushed by 3 times his natural gravity. For several seconds, he was motionless, except for the desperate heaving of his chest. Then, impossibly, he began to move, one hand planted firmly, a foot sliding forward. His arms shook violently, muscles straining through his testing suit. With agonizing slowness, he pushed up to a kneeling position. Impossible, Draz breathed. The physiological stress should have rendered him unconscious. The human raised his head, looking at the observation window. His face was contorted, veins bulging, sweat pouring, but his eyes burned with determination, perhaps defiance, or even enjoyment. With a grunt audible through the speakers, he began to stand, each centimeter gained. The human raised his head, looking at the observation window. His face was contorted, veins bulging, sweat pouring, but his eyes burned with determination, perhaps defiance, or even enjoyment. With a grunt audible through the speakers, he began to stand, each centimeter gained at enormous cost. Finally, impossibly, he stood upright in the 3 gravity field and smiled. 3 Earth gravity, he gasped, barely audible. Piece of cake. End test, Vex 9 ordered, his voice a whisper. Return to normal gravity immediately. As the gravity field dissipated, the human staggered, then caught himself. His breathing normalized, and medical monitors showed his vital signs stabilizing rapidly. Get a medical team down there, Draz ordered. No need, the human called, rolling his shoulders. I'm fine. Just give me a minute. Fine, Vex 9 repeated incredulously. You were just subjected to 3 times your natural gravity. A skeletal structure should be showing significant damage. The human grinned, showing teeth. Yeah, well, there's a lot about humans you guys don't know yet. He paused, adding with pride, we're full of surprises. Indeed, Vex 9 murmured, a weariness in his voice. Draz approached, speaking quietly. Okay, this changes everything we thought we knew about human physiological capabilities. If they can adapt this quickly to extreme gravity, what else might they be capable of? Vex 9 felt a chill at the implications. In the chamber, Jackson West stretched his arms, already recovering from an ordeal that would have killed most species. He looked up and gave another thumbs up, so his voice came through, almost casual. What's next? The question hung like a challenge. Vex 9's mandibles flicked in the scowl. Technician Lore, prepare the combat simulation chamber. Senior Biologist Draz, I want a complete biometric analysis of the human before and after this demonstration. Combat simulation, Draz questioned, voice lowered. Commander, after what we've witnessed, perhaps we should allow Recruit West recovery time. You saw what I saw, Vex 9 replied. This human withstood forces that would crush most Alliance species. I want to know what else he's capable of. Technician Lore raised a digit hesitantly. Alliance protocols suggest a minimum 12-hour recovery period after extreme gravity testing. Protocols, Vex 9 spat. Since when have humans concerned themselves with our protocols? No, we continue testing. In the chamber, Jackson West performed stretching exercises, movements fluid, showing little sign of the crushing pressure he'd endured. And Commander Draz tried again. At least allow me to conduct a thorough medical examination first. Vex 9 waved a dismissive hand. Fine, 20 minutes, then we proceed. Jackson West sat on an examination table designed for different anatomy, legs dangling, looking vaguely ridiculous. Biologist Draz ran scanning devices over him. Remarkable, Draz muttered. Simply remarkable. Thanks, I think, Jackson replied with a grin. Mind telling me what's so remarkable, besides my charming personality? Draz blinked all 4 eyes in sequence, a gesture of surprise. Draz blinked all 4 eyes in sequence, a gesture indicating mild confusion. Your skeletal structure should show significant microfractures after exposure to triple Earth gravity. Instead, I'm seeing evidence of strengthening. Jackson shrugged. We adapt. It's kind of our thing. Adapt, Draz repeated slowly. Within minutes. That defies biological principles. Look, Doc, can I call you Doc? Humans come from a planet where everything was trying to kill us for a couple million years. We got good at not dying. Assis' breathing sacs expanded slightly, a sign of excitement in his species. But the physiological responses I'm recording there beyond adaptation. Your bones appear to be actively remodeling themselves at an accelerated rate. Your muscle tissue is showing increased density. Even your cardiovascular system has already compensated for the stress. Okay, neat, Jackson said, examining his fingernails with exaggerated nonchalance. So, am I good to go? Your commander seemed pretty eager for round 2. Draz hesitated. Medically, I can find no reason to prohibit continued testing. However, I must advise caution. We still don't understand the long-term effects. Great. Let's do this, Jackson interrupted, popping up the table with an enthusiasm that made Draz's skin shift slightly in alarm. Commander, Vex 9 watched through the observation window as Jackson West entered the combat simulation chamber, a large circular room with a high ceiling, its walls lined with technological implements designed to create realistic holographic opponents and environments. Explain the parameters again, Vex 9 demanded, not taking his eyes off the human dot, Lieutenant Craig. The Alliance military advisor who had joined them straightened his armored exoskeleton. Standard multi-environment combat assessment. Commander, begin with basic terrestrial combat scenarios, then move to low gravity, aquatic, and atmospheric variations. Kate and the opponents. Vex 9 asked, holographic simulations based on known hostile species from unaligned worlds. Craig replied, they will increase in difficulty as the human progresses. Vex 9 considered this, doubled the difficulty scaling. Craig's head spines twitched in surprise. Sir, that would quickly exceed the parameters established for new recruits. Did you not witness the gravity test, Lieutenant? Vex 9 asked coldly. This is no ordinary recruit. Very well, Commander. Craig relented, adjusting the controls. Oh, I must note my reservation in the official record. Noted, Vex 9 said dismissively. Begin the simulation. The chamber's environment shifted, blank walls, dissolving into a rocky, barren landscape. Jackson West stood in the center, now dressed in standard Alliance combat attire, flexible bodysuit designed to adapt to various conditions. Recruit West, Craig announced through the communication system. This exercise will test your combat proficiency in multiple environments against various opponents. The difficulty will increase progressively. Your objective is simple. Survive. The human rolled his shoulders and bounced lightly on his toes. Sounds fun? Any rules I should know about? The simulation will end if you sustain injuries. That would be fatal in real combat, Craig explained. The holographic opponents cannot cause actual physical harm, but sensors in your suit will register damage. Got it? Fake fighting. Real scoring, Jackson said with a nod. Let's rock and roll. 9 leaned toward technician Lore. Rock and roll. Human idiom, Lore explained quietly. Okay? It means I don't actually care. Vex 9 interrupted. Lieutenant, commenced the first scenario. In the chamber below, 3 holographic figures materialized, humanoid in shape, but with reptilian features, carrying primitive but effective weapons, a spear, a curved blade, and a projectile launcher. Saurians, Craig explained, pre-spaceflight species known for their aggressive territorial behavior. Jackson assessed his opponents with a quick glance, assumed to combat stance, his casual humor replaced by focused intensity. The simulated Saurians attacked in coordinated fashion, the spear wielder charging directly while the others flanked. Jackson waited until the last moment before moving, his reaction speed catching even Vex 9 by surprise. Pi sidestepped the spear, thrust, grabbed the weapon shaft, and used the attacker's momentum to send the holographic creature tumbling. In the same fluid motion, he swung the captured spear to block the blade wielder's attack. Impressive reaction time, Craig noted, making an entry in his datapad. The skirmish continued for several minutes, the human displaying combat techniques that seemed both instinctive and calculated. He used the environment to his advantage, leaping onto a boulder for higher ground. His movements were economical, precise, and devastatingly effective. When the last simulated opponent fell, Jackson stood in the center, breathing slightly elevated, but otherwise showing no signs of exertion. Basic terrestrial combat assessment complete, Craig announced. Performance rating, exceptional. Thanks, Jackson called up to the observation window. Those guys weren't bad. Little predictable though. Vex 9's mandibles clicked in irritation, increased difficulty by a factor of 4, and changed the environment. The chamber shimmered, the rocky landscape replaced by a dense jungle setting. A gravity dropped to half Earth standard, causing Jackson to momentarily float before adjusting his stance. Low gravity, jungle environment, Craig explained unnecessarily. Opponents will be. He was interrupted by the appearance of 6 new holographic figures, less humanoid, with segmented bodies and multiple limbs ending in sharp, curved appendages. Archneds, Traz identified, his tone concerned. Commander, this is a significant escalation. Okay, most recruits don't face Archnid simulations until advanced training. Most recruits aren't humans who smile at triple gravity. Vex 9 replied flatly. Below, Jackson was already adapting to the low gravity, using short, controlled movements rather than his previous fluid style. The Archnids were fast, capable of leaping great distances in the reduced gravity, but the humans seemed to anticipate their attack patterns. Instead of fighting defensively, Jackson launched himself into the air, using the low gravity to execute a maneuver impossible on Earth. He caught a tree branch, swung around it, and landed directly on an Archned, disabling it instantly. He's playing with the environment, Craig observed, unable to keep admiration from his voice. Most species struggle with gravity transitions. He's exploiting it.